I remember when I was first reading the Stormlight Archive, and I was like, one of the things that I find so cool about this universe that Brandon Sanderson created was that this history seems to go back like a couple thousand years. It just seems so deep. Stephen Erikson's like, that's cute. How about 300,000 years in the past? Hey, what's up, bookworms, bridgeburners, and mallywhackers? Mike back again to talk a little spoilers. Today, we're going to be doing part 1 for Memories of Ice. Now, this is going to be the prologue. This is going to be book 1, The Spark of Ashes, which is chapters 1 through 6, and book 2, chapters 7 through 13, which is called Hearthstone. So if you've read that far, you are safe. I haven't read past that point yet because I didn't want to influence what I'm going to say now. I want these to kind of be a snapshot in time of how I felt at the halfway point at this book. So no worries there. You're not going to hear about anything that happens after that because I ain't read it. And I'd like to get this on video so that way I can continue reading the book. Now we're going to start here with the prologue before I break it down by group like I did with the Dead House Gates one. Now in the prologue, kind of what I joked about there a second ago is, holy shit, 300,000 years in the past? It's like, wow. So, yeah, Erikson is showing no restraint when it comes to building this world and this history. He's going to reel the clock back way back if that's what it takes to tell his story and build his universe. And I want to say I'm here for it, but I don't know if I am because there's a lot of it. But, I mean, that's just par for the course with this series so far. But lots of good info about the eye mass and the Jagged and their wars, and I think it says this is like the 33rd. So you think by then it's like, wow, I don't know how many times you can go to war with someone before you finally just be like, look, we're either just not ever going to end this war or we're just never going to get on the same page. But again, I appreciate all that stuff because that was one of the questions that I had in one of my previous videos. And I do think now, looking back at Gardens of the Moon, there is that one scene with the Rivi and Krupp and I guess what was it, the Bone Cat, Prone Chal, I can't think of his name right now, but he was in Gardens of the Moon, that one scene. I was like, that was way confusing. I think it makes that scene make more sense now, so you kind of get a little more explanation for what was going on there. I wouldn't go as far as to say, hey, it all makes, just clear as crystal now, but it makes a little bit more sense. This whole stuff with like these Jagged children being kind of stowed away in this barrow, which was actually a Kachane Shamale. I hope I'm saying that right. A Kachane Shamale hold. Yeah, this is where it just starts getting like, before I started this, everybody, actually when I said I'm first going to start Malazan Book of the Fallen, I had so many people being like, man, I can't wait for you to get to the prologue of Memories of Ice. It's so good. It'll make you cry. It may be out of frustration because I was like, what in the world is going on? Full disclosure, guys, I had to read this prologue twice before I started chapter 1 because I had no clue what was going on, and I still don't. But that's okay. I think I've got a grasp on what happened now, at least enough to keep going with the story here. But yeah, whatever was in this barrow that these children were stored in, apparently it released something big and bad, and that's what we're going to have to deal with. And these kids are now apparently going to have to suffer eternal torment in its place. So, whoops, someone made a big mistake. So if that wasn't far enough, Eric says, okay, how about we reel it back in a little bit? How about just 120,000 years in the past? Now we're kind of looking at High King Kalor, and he's this tyrant, and he's confronted by these three mages. This is Karol, which we've seen in Gardens of the Moon, Draconis, which I think we've heard about but haven't seen, and like the sister of the long cold nights or something, which I am kind of deciphering as, is this Night Chill the same Night Chill from Gardens of the Moon that we saw with all that stuff before Tattersall and all that? Is this the same chick? I think it might be. I don't know. I don't know how long in this book, this series. I just assume everyone's immortal unless they're human, and even then, sometimes it seems like even they have ways of living forever or living again. So I don't really know, but yeah, he decides to go all Mad King Targaryen here, and just I'm just going to burn my entire civilization and kill 12 million people, so they can't take it away from me. Dick move, bro. And what I didn't realize was this is the same Calor that we saw in Guardians of the Moon. He was the one that was trying to cause a rift between Caladan Brood and Animander Rake. And I didn't realize that that was the same guy here until I got later into this story and saw that Calor is very much still a presence in the story and realized that really is the same guy. So, yeah, I think that they were kind of filling in some of these gaps, I guess, even though obviously we're dealing with like a 120,000 year gap here to fill in some of these things. But yeah, again, I think he's setting up the pieces of his universe to just be like just infinite expansion. He could write in this universe forever now if he wanted to. But what I don't get is, okay, they curse him to eternal life as an old man, as a frail old man. So, okay, I mean, that doesn't seem like it's going to backfire at all, does it? But what I don't get is he curses them back. And I don't know how. I mean, isn't he just immortal? How is he cursing them back? So that's a big question mark there. Like, he curses Kroll to, like, never be remembered or something like he'll be eternally forgotten. He curses Draconis like he's going to be destroyed by his creation, which I think I've put together is Dragnipur. And I think that is, Animander Rake used that to kill or imprison Draconis. So, and then the third one, I don't really remember, like, hands tearing you apart for eternity or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, very, very confusing prologue. I think even more confusing than either of the first two prologues. So I think some of the veterans on the Discord have told me, I don't know why anybody would have said that to you about the prologue for this. On a reread, sure, so many things might make more sense to you, and it's fun to go back and visit them. But on a first read, you're just going to be, a confused mess like I was and am. But in this one, guys, I'm going to kind of break it down like I did Dead House Gates with the groups. We've got 4 main groups in this one. We got this caravan that's led by Gruntle. Then we've got a group of Tok, Envy, and Tool. We got a group of the Bridge Hunters, and we got a group of the Grey Swords and Kaplustan. So I'm going to kind of break it down by then. I'm going to begin with the Bridgeburners because, we were missing them a lot in Dead House Gate, so we want to kind of see what's going on with them. I think that the Silver Fox explanations in this are the real highlight here. Obviously, that is the rebirth, so to speak, of Tattersail with, but also Night Chill's in there, and maybe Belladon's still in there. I don't really know, but Tattersail is the one that they're trying to keep to the forefront. Obviously, I'm getting major Aaliyah Atreides vibes from Dune here, and I know that Stephen Erikson is a big Frank Herbert's Dune fan, so I could definitely see that being the influence here, where she's a very young child who's got knowledge beyond her years, and that's something that always was really, really cool that Frank did with Dune. So I can see the influence here. It's really cool. I think it kind of makes you I don't want to say dislike Ganos, but to be like, okay, stop whining, Ganos. Okay, so this is the reincarnation basically of this one gal that you slept with one time, and now you're uncomfortable about it and you're being a little baby about it. I have some hot takes, I think, on Ganos and Krupp, and those will come up. And when you got to cast this large, guys, you're going to have some characters that you're kind of like iffy on, and I gotta try to tell the rereaders this, is that you gotta understand is like, where this ends. I don't. So you might have some of these characters that are beloved to you, and they haven't got there for me yet. So if I feel indifferent, or like, for example, I don't think Whiskey Jack's done jack shit yet. So I don't see why everybody treats him like some kind of god or something when he hasn't. It's like Erikson keeps telling me that everyone would run through a wall for Whiskey Jack, but we don't really know why, and I think that's kind of the same with Ganos here. Everybody's like, I can't believe you didn't put Ganos in your top 10 characters for Guardians of the Moon. I'm like, he wasn't a top 10 character for me in Guardians of the Moon. So again, I hope that you'll if you've already read this series, that you will have some patience with me on things like that. But yeah, I'm really into the Silver Fox thing, and my heart just continues to break for the Mybe. Is that how you say it? The Mybe? I'm saying the Mybe. Just this woman who is basically having her life force just sucked away by this reincarnation of Tattersail here. It's just absolutely devastating. I feel terrible for her, and I feel like I'm going to end up being the thing like with Felison in the last book, where I feel like I've got to defend her, because a lot of people I've already seen saying like, oh, the Mybe just whines so much. I'm like, well, what would you do? If you were struck down your youth, like that. Oh, but I don't know. I don't know how the fandom as a whole feels about the Mybe at this point. Like, where I got a very big, fuck Felison vibe when I was reading the last book, where I was like, I'm defending her. So I don't know if that's gonna be the same thing here, but yeah, I feel awful for her, and she has every reason to whine. I think the parlay is really good. I like seeing all these different groups that have kind of been, knocking heads the first couple of books in the series get on the same page for the good of the land. They realize that the Panion Domain is the bigger threat here. They need to get on the same page. Some people have asked me how I felt about that. I'm like, I'm fine with it. I'm just going to say you're getting all of these groups together here. The Panion Domain better be some badasses. That's all I'll say. And I know every time I say that, everyone is like, LOL, I'm going to bookmark this and come back to it. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, the halfway point of this book. I keep getting told that the Panion Domain are just all-encompassing. They're just great evil. I haven't actually really seen very much of them yet. I saw the Seer, which I'll talk about when I get to talk, but so far they haven't done anything. So I'm just saying, if you've got the allied powers here, this better be, the Panion Domain better be, the Blitzkrieg. They better be this all-encompassing badass force that you need all of these world powers to take apart, or else it's just going to be like, well, that just seemed kind of anticlimactic, but we'll get to it. I like the stuff with Kaladin and Bruges, the explanation of the hammer, and finally getting to understand what Burn's sleep was. I don't necessarily know why she's asleep, but I understand now about his reluctance to use the hammer, and the repercussions of him actually using said hammer would be upon this world. So that's some neat stuff. That's the deep dive stuff that's like, wow, this is like hard for me to wrap my head around, but it's good. You understand it for the most part. I love Animander Rake showing up like a boss as a dragon, at the beginning. That's pretty cool. His talk that he has with Whiskey Jack is probably my favorite part of this parlay, where you get the backstory about how we met Quick Ben and Kalam. So many names, guys. But it was a really fun conversation, and Whiskey Jack kind of like being amazed that he's made an ally out of Rake. And then you've got Crone telling Rake, stop friending mortals. It never ends well, because obviously you're going to live forever, and they're not. But you want to talk about Crone? I mean, the stuff with like the crippled god and like the maggots manifesting the birds and stuff. Oh my. I don't even know, man. I don't even know. There's so much. I'm kind of here for the Whiskey Jack and Corlat romance. I've seen some people say, like, oh, that just kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah, well, so did Nynaeve and Lan and Wheel of Time, and everybody loved that. That was even more out of nowhere. This, I can see these people were on the eve of a huge battle that they might, most likely, are not going to live through. Yeah, I can see people hooking up, but she's all like, oh, I want to wake up in your arms. And it's like, wow, okay, well, so this may be a little more than just a little tryst. But, hey, cool. I'm here for it. I really liked his story about the collecting the rocks from the Tistandi that they had battles with and stuff. Really good stuff. Some growth for Whiskey Jack. Again, I don't dislike Whiskey Jack. I just don't see why all these men worship the ground that he walks on. When I think like Dujek, I can see why people are ready to run through a wall for him. I'm just not getting it with Whiskey Jack yet. But I don't dislike the character. No, I just like Krupp. I don't understand why people love Krupp. Every time he's on the page, he just reminds me of Lift from the Stormlight Archive. All he does is eat, say really obnoxious things, but the author keeps insisting this is the smartest person in the room, and it drives me crazy. Now, I know that things may change on that, and I may find more about the character if I'm endearing, but right now, every time he's on the screen, it's just a 2-paragraph phrase of nothing that makes no sense to me, and I don't care. And poor Krupp. I mean, poor me for having to read this dialogue. So I'm hoping that gets better. And I know that that's controversial because people seem to love Krupp, and I don't get it. I do not get it. I don't get also the Finis Azath stuff and the deck of dragons. Okay, there's like some table with Gano's picture on the bottom or something. And then he gets sucked inside of it or something, and then we see Race, and he's talking to Race in there. Look, that was cool stuff. I just don't understand what in the world is going on with this like deck of dragons. So I don't know if I'm supposed to be getting it. Like I said, like I keep saying with some of this stuff is, I don't know if I'm just being a dummy or if this stuff that's really for the rereaders, because right now I'm like, no, don't know. Quick Ben stuff is another thing I'm kind of a little fuzzy on. I get kind of what he's doing. It just kind of seems, I don't know, kind of out of nowhere on a lot of the stuff, like undead hands, like reaching and grabbing him down into the ground and stuff, into a warren. And I don't know. I think getting to see that the Barghast were actually Imass that missed the ritual, and this is kind of how they've naturally evolved over time. That's cool. I didn't see that one really coming. The crippled god thing is still a big fat question mark. I didn't expect to see the crippled god even more than just like mentioned by name maybe this early in the series, since, I mean, obviously, spoiler, I know that that's the name of book number 10, so I'm thinking that's the big bad for this whole series. But yeah, I didn't expect to see said creatures so early in the series. So actually seeing this actually surprised me. What else in this before I move on to the next group? I guess who couldn't have seen Calor being a real crap weasel? I mean, like I said, it was really stupid leaving him alive, I think, there. And it's just left the door open for him to be a, like I said, a crap weasel here is where he's decided to join ranks with the crippled god and this new formed House of Chains, which, hey, again, spoiler alert, that's the name of the next book. So I think I know where we're headed here. Let's move on to Gruntle. And I don't want you guys to get upset, but this is the one group I've had a hard time giving a damn about at all. I haven't really been able to relate to these characters one bit. Outside of the introduction to the Kachane Shamali, I don't really have any interest in this group at all. But you know what? I want to talk about the keychain tamales for a minute. And yes, we've been calling them the keychain tamales on the Discord because it's funny. This is the coolest shit that I've seen in a fantasy book in a long time. As a big Michael Crichton guy, it's kind of like, man, you know what, Crichton, you missed it. You missed your mark by not putting sword arms on your freaking raptors here. So cool. Such a neat idea. Out of nowhere. Look, I already knew about these. I remember when I was first about to start reading, I was like, look, if you guys had told me that this series had dragons and dinosaurs in it, yeah, I probably would have read it a lot sooner. And people were like, yeah, and the dinosaurs also have swords for arms. So I kind of had that spoiled for me, but I didn't expect it to be as cool as it was. The fact that these are like a founding race and things, really cool stuff. I can't wait to see more now that they're like undead, and the thing is, like, these things are like massive, but they're like super fast. And I mean, well, we have that one point with the gray swords later where it takes like 5 of them. Or I mean, there's only 5 of these things, and it takes down almost like this whole battalion of people. These things are just vicious. I love it. I want more of that. But yeah, the Boshelin and Corbel Brooch, I know that they have like a spin-off series of short stories or something like that. Outside of that, that's the only interest I have in those characters. I'm like, okay, so they're necromancers. They got like body parts and stuff. I'm just not really digging this part of the story at all. I'm sure it'll be one of those things I look back on and be like, oh, Erikson's a genius, like I did with Deadhouse Gates. But as of the moment, I'm not really feeling the Gruntle storyline like at all, outside of just the introduction to the Kachane Shamali. So at least that part was really, really good. Let's move on to the gray swords here. And this one I'm kind of indifferent on because here's the deal. This was the point of the book after book 1 was through, Spark of Ashes, and I moved into Hearthstone. I was like, okay, all right, I think I got a grasp on everything here. It's going to be smooth sailing from here on out, right? Steven Erikson's like, hey, here's the Mass Council. And it's like, okay, here's 14 new names. Here's 3 new territories. You know what? And each one of these main characters here are going to have little surnames and things like that. And it just gets completely just convoluted for me again. And Chapter 7 was a struggle, guys. Chapter 7, I think it was like 80 pages. It was rough. And I think that's because I've been feeling pretty indifferent towards the gray sword so far, in that I can't seem to differentiate them. Carnatus, Brucalian, and Ikovian, I can't tell you which one's which. And I can't tell you which one's the sword anvil or the hammer nail or whatever these weird names that he's got for each one of them. I'm having a hard enough time kind of keeping all these names straight, so stop giving them nicknames, That's kind of how I feel about it. George R. R. Martin was real big about doing that, and he'd be like, okay, look, I'm just going to kind of forget the nicknames. I'm going to kind of try to focus on the real names for now. Yeah, and then you introduce like 12 Wrath Your Mama characters. I don't know. They're all named after the gods. I kind of get what he's going for here, as they're just like a council. Okay, I got that. But again, this is like info dump city here, and there's points in this chapter where I'm like, I don't even know who's talking right now. And I say if I have one major struggle with this entire series, and my biggest gripe so far, is Erikson will not only introduce so many new characters to you all at once, he will talk to you like you should know who these people are, and you're a dummy for not knowing that. And I know it's something that's going to make sense in time, but on a first reading, it is entirely frustrating, at least for me. But yeah, like the Barghast bodies in canoes, I'm like, I don't understand what's happening here. I think the fighting the Kell Hunters was pretty badass. That was the best part, I think, of these chapters, where they tie them up with ropes and just like rip them apart and stuff. But again, the fact that just 5 of these suckers like almost take out this whole force is just brutal, and it's amazing. But yeah, everything about the Kachane Shamali is just awesome. I can't say enough about that. It's definitely been my favorite part of this book, outside of the next group, and the next group is Tak, Envy, and Tool. Now, if you guys know, if you watch my character rankings for Guardians of the Moon, you know that Tool was my favorite character in that book, and he is still my favorite character in the series overall up to this point. And that's why I don't know if that's necessarily why this has been my favorite part of the story. Look, obviously I was happy to see Tool again. I'm happy to see that Tak is indeed alive, just like I guessed. But I also really like what Lady Envy is kind of bringing to the table here. Look, she's an intriguing character. I want to trust her, but I think she's a little too powerful for me to just blindly trust her. I love the way she kind of flirts with Tak. He's just like all uncomfortable about it. Hey, Tak, chicks dig scars, man. Go for it. Yeah, I wanna like her a little more, but I'm kind of guarded because any character that's as powerful as she seems to be and used to run with Animander Rake, obviously she's got some skeletons in that closet, and they aren't just Talani Mas, right? I don't know if that's a prequel book or what. The stuff with her and Rake, if it is, I'll be interested in reading that. But I believe is she Draconis' daughter? I think that's what it is. And the fact that Rake is the one who actually, fucked up Draconis, that could be a complicated relationship there, I think, right? But the Segula, man. The Segula are like these kabuki ninjas or something. These masks, and they're just complete badasses. And the fact that Tool actually fights two of these guys and bests them. And here's the thing. I knew that Tool was pretty good with a sword. Obviously called the first sword. I knew he was pretty good with a sword. I didn't know he was this good with a sword. And the fact that he's fighting with the blunt end, so he doesn't actually hurt anybody. So you got the whole thing about they got to establish dominance. The Segula do and things like that. So not only is Tool fighting them, but he's just knocking them out. Except for Mock. Mock is apparently say that he feels like he could beat Animander Rake in a fight. That's kind of dropped there. They have unfinished business or whatever. And at one point, Tool sees Mock completely just fuck up a kill hunter, it's nothing, and he's like, you know what? I gotta fight him now. I gotta fight him, and Envy just has to knock out Mock so that they won't fight. Very good stuff. But another storytelling technique that I like that Erikson kind of used here, and this is one of those things I say that I feel like he finds a way to insert humor into things that shouldn't be funny. Is you're having this sword fight between the Segula and Tool here, and they kind of fade off into the background, and then in the foreground you've got Lady Envy info dumping to Tak, and it's brilliant. It's like, oh god, they're fighting again, right? And it just kind of that isn't the focus of the story. A really good moment. I really like that. Another thing that frustrates me about this series is I never know when someone's being literal or metaphorical. Kroll is talking to Lady Envy, and he basically says, the Warrens are actually my blood. And I'm like, are you serious right now, or are you being metaphorical? I never know if these people are serious or not, So I've just accepted I'm not going to understand the Warrens, maybe ever. Probably not until the back half of the series at least. So I just kind of just roll with that. I think that's really helped me a lot there. Then you got Tak's visions of whatever it is he's seeing. They're going right over my head. It's like it kind of flips between them so much that I'm confused on what. 1 minute we're having this info dump about Trake, and then the next he's meeting Kalava, and then Kalava is actually there, and then Kalava, Tool's sister, by the way. Really interesting little twist there that she chose to take part in this ritual that turned them into what they are. And she's here now. She's not here to deal with the pain, and she's got her own business. So I'm like, so why are you here, and why are you still young? She's a shapeshifter, I guess. She can turn into her soul taken. She can turn into a leopard. Lots of question marks about her. Again, at this point, I just wonder who actually ages in the series and who don't. But look, all this hype about the Paniendo men, the Tenascalri are the real nightmare fuel of this book for me up to this point. Just like this cannibal horde who just, are just, I don't even know what else to say. I mean, just, you had me at cannibals, really, to the point where it's like, these are terrifying. And Tak deciding to infiltrate them, well, it seems like an odd decision. He decides he's going to leave Lady Envy there because he feels like he's in over his head. In this power level, he's just going to end up dead. Let me join up with, 10,000, cannibals and see how that goes. Okay. But when we actually do meet the Panian Seer, this is where I first started getting questions. I'm like, okay, well, is he a Jagged, or is he being controlled by a Jagged? I believe it said there's some kind of tentacle or something. I don't. These chapters are so confusing, you guys. I don't really know what's going on here. I'm thinking it'll be clear. I don't know if I read that wrong or what, but to me, I immediately started thinking, well, hell, if this is tying back into the prologue, is the Pain and Seer actually one of these kids that got stuck in this warren at the beginning? Or if it's not, or Burrow Warren, I don't know, whatever it was that they got stuck in the beginning, that red tear in the sky or whatever. If that's the case, where's the other kid? That's what I want to know. So I don't know. That's probably a laughable theory up to this point. I'm just trying to think about what does that prologue got to do with anything. But again, his books don't necessarily work like that. His prologue could be something that doesn't make sense till book 7, for all I know. You know, that's just kind of me trying to be smart here, even though I'm clearly not, because I read these books and I'm just like, man, I feel like a dummy. But him basically torturing Tak by giving him to the Kachane Shamali matron there and having him be crushed over and over again by a raptor and being healed. That's probably, it seems like no fun. That seems like no fun at all. Actually made me think of this one Stargate SG-1 episode where Colonel O'Neill is actually being like tortured by one of the system lords who keeps, killing him over and over again, and they use that sarcophagus thing to revive him. And it just really, really fucks Colonel O'Neill up really bad. So I'm thinking, even if Tak does live through this, he's going to be damaged maybe beyond all repair before the end of this story. And I've had people tell me that Tak is kind of Erikson's punching bag, and I'm like, I'm still leaning Phillison, but Tak is definitely giving as good as he gets in this book. And that's kind of where I'm at with these groups up to this point. Got a couple of thoughts here, I guess. I had everyone tell me, if you make it through the first 2 books and you get to Memory of Ice, it's all smooth sailing from there. Look, guys, I am either a dummy or I just flat out disagree. This has been just as challenging as the first 2 books. Now, I want you to understand, I am enjoying myself. Anytime you voice frustrations about this, people assume that you're saying you're hating it. No, I am still enjoying this universe because it is different than anything I've ever experienced. But yeah, it's very much work, and it's very much where I'm like, look, I know I'm not going to understand everything, and that's a hard thing for a reader to let go of. That it's okay if you don't understand it, just move along. If it's important, it'll come back later. I don't want to get to like book 7 and there's like some huge revelation and I'm like, I guess I missed it. I don't really understand what's going on. People are like, weren't you paying attention back in book 3? That's why I'm taking my time with it and really trying to, just consume everything at a slow pace so I kind of get it. But I guess if I got a criticism of this first half is I feel like Erikson's world-building ADD kind of got away with him in this one. Like I said, that one scene where you shift from Trach to Kalava, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know this was a different vision. What? I thought this was all in the same thing here. Things like that, and when you get into the Barghast bodies and the canoes and all that stuff, it's a lot. It is a lot, and sometimes it's just like, I wish that you would kind of stay focused on the here and now instead of always dropping me into this history lesson in the middle of a chapter, because it made those gray source chapters very, very confusing, and it made some of the talk stuff very confusing. Sometimes I don't know what's happening and what isn't. So that's probably my biggest gripe with this so far. Again, a lot of times with so many new characters, I don't even know who it is that's talking and why I should be paying attention to them. But again, Kachane Shamali, some of the coolest things I have witnessed in all of fantasy. And I've read a lot of fantasy. This seems like almost like something that would be in a Dark Tower book. It's just that crazy, that batshit. And I love it. I'm here for the batshit when it comes to Malazan. I want this stuff to just be crazy. I love the Tak and Tool bromance that's going on. It's one of my favorite things. I'm actually kind of sad that they are separated now, because at one point where he says, Tak actually, he's talking to Emmy and he says, because Tool is my friend, and Tool's like shocked that he said that. Good stuff. I like that friendship that they're developing there. But with this, I feel like this is going to be like Deadhouse Gates was to me, where once you finish the book, it'll make the first half better in hindsight. Didn't think the first half was bad, but it was tough. It was very, very tough to get through. Now, everyone's told me, once you get to book 3, just like with Deadhouse Gates, boom, it's going to take off. But they've told me this with every book so far. With every book. Oh, Guardians of the Moon's kind of a struggle. If you just get through that one, you'll be in. It'll be smooth for you. Oh, well, Deadhouse Gates is kind of divisive. It's kind of tough. If you just get to Memories of Ice, it's going to be smooth sailing for you. Now it's, oh, well, once you get to book 3 in Memories of Ice, so I think this is just something that's going to keep going on the entire series. I had someone on the Discord tell me today that, once you get to the Bone Hunters, everything will just click into place. So I'm like, that's like book 6 or 7 of the series. Glad to know after about 8,000 words, we'll finally understand everything that's going on. So again, this is something that I knew going into this series, but we'll have an announcement here pretty soon about this read-along. There's going to be some changes to the schedule. We're actually going to be speeding it up a little bit because so many people have dropped out. The conversation has died down, and I'm like, why are we delaying this read-along for, to go over 2 years if so many people are dropping out? So we will be having an adjustment to that schedule, so stay tuned. I'll be doing a channel announcement on that very soon. But guys, what did you think about books 1 and 2 of Memories of Ice? Please don't talk about anything that happens after Hearthstone, because again, I haven't read that far yet, and people that'll be watching this probably haven't read that far yet. So wait for my spoiler talk with my Malazan Veteran, which is going to be AP Caravan at the end of next month, and we will talk about all the spoilers for this book there. But drop in the comments, let me know what you guys thought about this first part, and I will talk to you there.